Hi everyone, I'm Gina Minardi and I'm a licensed therapist who got fed up with therapy. This is a one-woman show about my journey of finding the spaces between non-traditional approaches of healing. What I learned is that there's no one right way to heal, and you truly are your best resource. Therapists and healers are meant to support you on your path, but they don't have all of the answers. You do. This show is about the spaces between laughter, tears, thoughts, ego, soul, messy growth, and moments of joy. It's about personal liberation, inner knowing, and the tools that get you there. I will cover topics that make many of us uncomfortable and interviewing people who are willing to go there. I've spent thousands of hours listening to human beings navigate their life story, from rehabs in Malibu to homeless shelters in East LA, and now my private practice. It has been some of the most profound, painful, and beautiful moments in my life. Thank you so much for joining me. Hi friends, it's Gina here. How are you doing today? I have decided that I want to talk about love and relationships, both on a personal level for me and then also through the lens of the books that I've read over the years, the clients that I've seen, and the research around it. But I'm going to primarily focus today on Stan Tatkin's work because it has blown doors open for me. And I think his book, Your Brain on Love, and also Wired for Love are incredible. So I'm going to go into why I named this episode, Let Me Love You. Let me love you, Gina, comes from a moment when my partner said this to me and stopped me dead in my tracks as I was throwing a cataclysmic fit in the car on the way home from a wedding in Colorado. I was complaining about how he never listens to me when I'm ready to leave a party or gathering and he has to gab into the wee hours of the night. For me, it doesn't feel like he listens, he becomes evasive, and then it feels disrespectful. But if you know my boyfriend personally, he likes to gab more than the yaya sisterhood. It is absolutely the beautiful side of who Jonas is. One of my best friends pointed out to me that to have a cup of coffee with Jonas in the morning, all attention is on you and he is completely absorbed in the present moment. All time stops. I, on the other hand, can be very fast-paced, and it's not that I won't be completely absorbed or present in conversation with you, but when I have hit my quote-unquote talking maximum socially or out at a gathering, I get so sleepy and I just tap out. And there's this part of me that wants my partner to notice when I do tap out. I used to be the person who attended 50 happy hours a week. Also, this is pre-pandemic, with 50 girlfriends and et cetera, et cetera. But this changed as I got older. I needed a lot more solo time and silence in my life. I need way more of that than Jonas. It's not a criticism to him, but where we have both sort of, quote unquote, failed in our relationship is not honoring what the entire system needs because we are two individuals who impact the collective whole. So let me go back to saying, let me love you, Gina. In that moment, I realized how difficult it is for me to let love in, to truly, truly, truly receive it or believe that somebody could support me. I have often been the support or caretaker of other people, hence why I've also become a therapist, even though I'm not supposed to do that. I have built walls and armor over the span of my life for a variety of reasons. If you listen to the first episode, No One Loves a Perfect Person, you will have a deeper understanding into why. But in a quick snapshot, my mother passed away when I was really young, 17, still with a developing mind and prefrontal cortex. I was angry and really traumatized from that. So I felt in many ways I had to take care of my family members and their emotions. And I hyper jumped into my masculine energy when my mom passed away, which later in intimate relationships made me resentful and volatile. if my partners let me down and I didn't feel supported or seen. The examples of love relationships in my life were not very secure and stable. Again, my parents divorced when I was 11 months old. My mother had a long-term boyfriend that she fought with contentiously and frequently. The energy was push and pull, break up, get back together. I watched her throw a glass at his head when he came home drunk. After him and I had played tetherball, he fell over and she got so pissed off. I just watched that glass explode into a million pieces, and then he got a DUI and had to go to AA. So as a side note, this is not to say that my parents weren't incredible, loving, and supportive in so many ways, but they were imperfectly perfect humans. And these are part of my relationship blueprint and attachment style. In my life, I really learned that fighting and raising your voice was normal to be heard. Slamming doors and walking away was okay, and inconsistency was the norm. So how have I learned to let love in with Jonas? It has been a lot of goddamn work. Anyone who knows us well and our 10 years together know that Jonas and I can pretty easily go to war with one another. We both come from families who know how to fight well and hit below the belt. We have similar attachment styles, listening skills, levels of defensiveness, and reactivity. We sound like a party. We love each other so deeply and intensely that we have had to work really hard in our relationship. We've had to unlearn patterns from our family systems. We've had to learn how to actively listen, lower our voices, watch our facial expressions, and protect instead of dismantle our foundation. It is a daily practice and a daily work in progress. So now I'm going to rewind to the very beginning when I talked about our fight at the wedding in Colorado. Who was right? Who was wrong? Neither. And him and I have both made the mistake of approaching our relationship that way. After reading Stan Tatkin's book, Your Brain on Love, my life and relationship will be forever changed, and I really hope that it can help yours, even if you aren't in a relationship. This is information that you can take into future relationships. So if you remember the details, I was pissed that Jonas was talking into the wee hours of the night, and then he was pissed at me because he felt like I was controlling him or telling him what to do. Stan Tatkin's work and approach to relationships is that you each do and honor what is good for the whole relationship. This is not about codependency, and it's really about each of us having independent selves, but looking at the whole. Okay, so how does each part in the whole affect one another? So as a therapist, and many therapists around me have been trained that each person needs to be individually responsible for their past baggage, trauma, and nervous system response, and to just learn how to self-soothe. I'd even say to Jonas sometimes if he's angry, you need to self-soothe or take a deep breath, and then he screams that back to me. All right. But Stan would argue that this just complete individual responsibility is not totally true at all, really. We actually need to be responsible for negotiating what is good for the primary relationship, and nothing else comes in the way of that. Nothing. We will always care about the other person's distress, and we don't need to fix it. Okay, understand this point. We don't need to fix it for them, but we need to understand how to not make it worse, to provoke it or activate them or abandon emotionally. So if you would have said this to me, I would even say within the last couple of years, I would have laughed really and said, this sounds like some 1950s bullshit where we developed a culture of codependency and that I always need to do what's good for Jonas, the man. So, I've always had this feeling that just like I'm an independent woman and I do what I want, which is often what I did. I took surf trips when I wanted. I had my own money, socialized when I wanted, even if it hurt his feelings or he felt neglected. I would often turn to him and say, "You just need to accept me or find someone who is more submissive and malleable to your needs." Damn, Gina. But there is truth to both sides with Jonas and I. Where are his needs and what are my needs? They are separate, but again, impact the whole relationship. Hi, friends. I just wanted to take a quick break and thank you for tuning in. I love making this podcast for you, and I hope you love listening. If you do, the best way to show it is leaving a review, especially on Apple Podcasts. Thank you so much in advance, and now back to the show. So now I'm going to try to break down Stan's work, which is a lot, okay? But I took hours and hours of it, and I really wanted to succinctly get the points that I find are the most relevant and profound. Okay, here I go. So we all have attachment styles and certain types of nervous systems. You need to learn yours and understand it well, and you need to learn theirs and understand, and key word here, accept it. Because that is what we are interacting with on a daily basis. Also, that our attachment style does not have to define the success of your relationship. So please let that go. I have had so many clients come into my office after they have read the book Attached, and they say, "Oh my God," and they're crying, "but I'm anxious avoidant and they're secure," or, "I'm fearful avoidant. The relationship is doomed." No, no, no. This is just information for you and what you and your partner can work with. So, research has shown that two people who have a certain type of nervous system response, arousal response, listen to this deeply, okay, sometimes may just not get along that well because we can become too stuck in fight, flight, freeze responses. Again, I'm a deep believer that nothing is completely 100% stuck. That things like meditation, breath work, and other regulating systems can help shift this and healing your trauma, which affects how your nervous system responds. So Stan begs the question with attachment styles: are you a wave, an island, or an anchor? And he says not to necessarily give yourself a standing ovation if you are an anchor, which he says typically people do. Anchors have issues too, as all humans do. They just express themselves differently. So I am actually a bit of a wave, not a bit of a wave, I'm a big wave, and slightly an island, all right? And I'm going to go through the wave, the island, and an anchor and really feel into what resonates with you. And then also, what do you think your partner is? Okay, but do not go in and diagnose your partner with this. That will only piss somebody off. All right, so waves. Waves deeply desire connection with a partner. They're usually generous people, and their passionate intensity can make them fun to be around. Yet most waves believe that true intimacy is not really possible, and they live in a fear of abandonment, withdrawal, rejection, and punishment. While islands have a fear of dependency, the primary issue for waves, sometimes called angry resistant individuals, is dashed hope. So the partners of waves often feel like their relationships are roller coaster rides. Any of my exes will tell you this. Waves tend to cling to their companions while behaving in ways that can be hostile and distancing. Separations and reunions may trigger pushing their partners away even as they want connection. This comes from fearing deeply what they want most: a truly intimate relationship. As children, waves often experience role reversal with at least one parent who was likely to have been depressed, anxious, dependent, overwhelmed, or angry. They were charged with caring for that adult's emotional well-being, and this meant their own needs for connection were unmet. So as adults, when they reach out for connection, they expect to be disappointed. Their reflexive negativism is a defense against that disappointment. I call this an allergy to hope. Islands, in contrast with anchors, have a hard time staying connected to their long-term romantic partners. In therapeutic language, we call this the avoidant type. On the bright side, islands are often independent, highly creative, and accomplished adults, but they frequently feel trapped in primary romantic relationships, especially when the going gets tough. They prize solitude and fear being subsumed by another person's wishes and needs. Islands are threatened by conflict and drama. They are more likely to withdraw, keep secrets, and fear being exposed by partners who encroach on their privacy. As a result, their companions often feel neglected, unimportant, and burdensome. Though islands can feel antisocial or even a bit selfish, they are often reacting to early experiences when they felt neglected by their caregivers. Experience taught them to self-soothe rather than risk depending on anyone else for support. Islands often want close relationships but are afraid of the responsibilities of another person. They fear being needed but not really wanted. Their defensiveness is largely unconscious, driven by the conditioning of their nervous systems and brains. Anchors. Anchors are notoriously easygoing and mostly unencumbered by fears of abandonment or loss of autonomy. They are collaborative and cooperative by nature, and they're comfortable with physical and emotional intimacy. They can maintain that closeness for extended periods without anxiety. They usually develop these traits because they had a secure relationship with a primary caregiver, and they're able to bring that acquired sense of security into their adult relationships. I call relationships between two anchors secure functioning. Stan is saying this because both partners relate in mutually beneficial ways. So we can all develop a more anchored way of relating, though it involves a shift of thinking for waves and islands who tend to put their own needs first out of insecurity. Secure functioning couples create a social contract, implicitly or explicitly, that ensures fairness, equality, and sensitivity to each other's needs. So again, I'm going to rewind to that situation with Jonas and I in Colorado to use it as an example. So how could we have attended to each other's needs in the moment? So I could have approached him in a much gentler, lowered tone and not demanding that we leave, immediately and at such and such time. Jonas could have honored that I was tired and tapping out. And then he also could have validated and acknowledged, softening me and my response because waves tend to flame up. He might have said, G, I hear you, but I'm having such a good time with my friends. I really don't feel like leaving and I'm a little bit frustrated, but we're a partnership and I'm going to honor that we both drove here and you just can't Uber out of the middle of the woods. Are you cool if I wrap it up in 15 to 20 minutes? All in all, again, this is a bit redundant, but it's about honoring the needs of each other, not demanding what the other person needs or being elusive, secretive, etc., etc. So this might feel like a little bit of a benign situation, but all of us in relationship experience this kind of stuff on maybe even a weekly basis. Okay, who picks the kids up and gives up yoga? Who does more house chores? Who is working more? Who makes more money? Who likes to socialize more? And who is more internalized and needs more space? Okay, so is there mutual functioning? Or are you just always telling your partner what you need and you're in complete disregard of their needs, or vice versa? Okay, it goes both ways. So again, it's never too late for this secure functioning. You just need to sit down and discuss in a relaxed environment without falling into shame or blame. So, what does this relationship want to look like and feel like? How do you define success for the two of you? So, a shared sense of purpose will give you something to rely on when difficulties arise. It will help you stay connected when you're tempted to push away from each other. So, becoming each other's anchor is worth the effort. So, other major takeaways I would say is this is your primary relationship if you are choosing to be in a monogamous relationship. And one might even claim, Stan as well, even if you're in an open relationship, depending on your rules and boundaries, the primary is the primary. So no one gets away or takes away from this. Not a child or a pet or another person. This dismantles the safety and security of the primary relationship. So again, you must have an agreement. Something written is usually the best case scenario about what is special to you in this partnership and how are you going to know to help calm down your partner. Again, what is good for me is also good for them. You must fight fair, okay? And not leave the other person wounded or stewing for too long, and you must not let it get in the way of daily or any activity for that matter. This will create damaged long-term memories which add to the threat system, okay, in your nervous system and in the relationship. Acceptance and knowledge of one another and skill set to handle each other properly while you're activated. Okay, key point. You see your partner getting activated. Are you provoking them? Are you pushing at them, etc., etc.? Or can you really say to them, hey, I'm noticing that you're getting really charged. All right, what do you need from me right now? Do we each need to take a couple of deep breaths? All right, also protect each other in private and public. Do not ever shame or criticize your partner publicly. This dismantles the foundation of your relationship. You're good caregivers of one another. You know exactly what knocks this person down to their knees and also what picks them up. So we all need to learn also the process of tensing and relaxing. You can look deeper into Stan's work, but that ability to, again, regulate your nervous system. So if someone starts to fight and expresses distress, you give that attention first. He talks about 3-minute fights only. This blew my mind. Also, that perception is just that. It is one person's perception, and you need to honor that, even if you disagree with it. If there is no apology, you are arousing someone's nervous system. I'm sorry and I love you always provides quick relief. So you also need to take it really seriously if your partner says, you know what, you just rolled your eyes at me and you showed me a level of contempt. Even if you don't believe it, take ownership for it. And do not defensively go, I didn't roll my eyes at you. That all you're going to do is you're going to war with your partner. Okay. So in the end of all of this, we all do better when we feel safe and secure. And it's about each person creating that safety and security. So the last things that I'm going to read to you, which I think are also kind of hilarious and true, that Stan talks about in his book is number 1, there is nothing more difficult on the planet than another person. Okay. So stop looking at Instagram and thinking that there are perfect relationships. He says the complexity of another person is what makes relationships so challenging. And when you're in an ongoing intimate relationship, this unique connection is not like any other relationship. Stan says pets are easy, partners are hard. When you keep this in mind, it helps you remember that everyone finds relationships difficult. Number 2. All people are by nature annoying. This is hilarious too. Stan says we find people annoying because of the phenomena of different minds. This just means different minds have different ideas, intentions, goals, feelings, and this is annoying when your minds don't meet. When you can appreciate that all people are annoying, you can have realistic expectations within your relationship when things become difficult. Number 3, there is no such thing as a low maintenance person. Along the lines of the last point, most people from a distance look low maintenance, but up close they're not. When you are in an intimate, committed relationship, all people are high maintenance. This is just a fact because when you spend your life with somebody, it's only natural that over time there will be aging, health, and possibly mental health issues. Number 4, romantic relationships are burdensome. Stan says primary attachment relationships do have a degree of burden. This has become at some point you are going to have to care for your partner or they are going to have to care for you. If you enter a relationship and think everything will be easy and blissful and that other people won't take effort or work, you're in for a rude shock. Accepting that romantic relationships are burdensome is not a reason to avoid a relationship. It's more about being realistic about your relationship expectations. Number 5, in love relationships, nobody comes pre-trained. Stan says some people expect their partner to have gone to school for love relationships, but nobody is trained in relationships. And because no one is trained in how to do love relationships well, it's very normal that we all enter relationships without knowing how to best navigate them. The good news is partners can train each other in how to be in a relationship. Stan says partners need to have each other's owner's manual, and they need to know how each other works, which includes strengths and deficits. Over time, this knowledge will make you a better partner. Number 6, the need to be parented never really ends. Stan says many people find this shocking. Some people think that parenting ends when you become an adult, but Stan says we continue to parent in our primary attachment relationships for as long as we live. The idea here is that you parent your partner to a degree because they can be immature. Parenting each other is a skill and a task of couples that are healthy and secure functioning relationships. Number 7, romantic partners are responsible for each other's past. See, now before I totally would have argued this and said, you get therapy, you work on your shit, this is not for me to attend to, but it's both. An individual should go to therapy and work on their wounding and trauma, but also we need to be there for their past. So Stan continues and says, when we are in a committed relationship, we inherit our partner's past. This is because our partner becomes a proxy for everything that has come before the current relationship. Stan says you can't really say, you're projecting your past onto me, because this is part of natural phenomena. Those who have hurt us in the past are no longer around, so you're going to have similar feelings to those close to you. Instead of saying, I'm not responsible for that pain, take care of yourself, you can just say to them, I'm sorry. Number 8, most of the time we don't know what we are doing or why. The way the brain operates is why most of the time we are not aware of what we are doing. Stan says our automatic brain is doing most of the tasks 90% of the time, so we don't have to think about what we are doing. The problem in relationships is because the automatic brain operates almost entirely by memory. I talked about this in previous episodes. We are acting and reacting so fast, and it's a lot of the times from the past, and we don't know what we are doing or saying. When you understand this, it can help make sense why you and your partner react so quickly in a negative way to each other. Number 9, what we don't know, we make up. Stan says the part of the brain makes up what it doesn't know. This leads to lots of people in relationships having the wrong idea about what their partner is or isn't doing. The brain needs to fill in the blanks, and for this reason, much of what is unknown is literally made up. As you can imagine, this leads to lots of misunderstandings, wrong assumptions, and misappraisals. When you can appreciate that much of what you believe is not fact, you can then try to be more curious about what your partner is thinking, feeling, or saying. Number 10, our brains are built for war and less for love. There is an evolutionary reason why our brains are more built for war than for love. He says that parts of our brain are specialized in picking up threats and danger in our environment. This is how we have survived as a species. This includes dangerous sounds, movements, postures, and gestures. Stan says that there are also very dangerous words and phrases, and this part of the brain picks up the threat very quickly and much faster than we know. Stan says many couples don't know they're being threatening to each other. Again, this goes back to the eye roll that I was talking about earlier. On top of this, our memory system is built to retain negative experiences over positive experiences. Pay attention to your expression with your partner, including words, phrases, pitch of voice, speed of delivery, and nonverbal gestures and behavior to avoid unintentionally threatening your partner. Number 11, we need to be tethered to another person in order to survive. In order to survive and thrive, you need to be tethered to at least one person in your life. And again, this does not necessarily mean a romantic partner. Stan says our culture of autonomy makes this difficult, but it's essential for health and well-being. A secure base helps us survive and thrive in the world today. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope this was helpful and can make your relationships a little bit more loving and balanced and maybe calm. All right. Thank you, guys. Hi, friends. If you have been enjoying Spaces Between, please take a moment to subscribe, and leaving a review is the cherry on top. Thank you so much, and I look forward to connecting with you next week.